Just quickly wanted to thank you guys for the support on the last video. It was hectic. I hate asking for likes and subscriptions because it's fucking cringe, but you guys killed it. Got me over 700 subs, so much appreciated. Celebratory beer. Oh, that's good shit. So yeah, thanks for the support. Appreciate y'all and keep it going. Let's get into the round 19 teams. Starting off with the Saltwater Derby, we got the Sharks and the Dolphins. We can gloss over the Sharks, just Daniel Atkinson coming onto the bench for Billy Burns. For the Dolphins, however, the loss of Cody Nikorima to a hamstring injury sees Sean O'Sullivan return to the side in the number 6 jersey. O'Sullivan's last appearance, blah, 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 whatever. Hamiso has been named in the number 1 jersey to back up from Origin on a Friday? On a Friday, okay. Don't bank on that happening. It is more likely for your outside backs and stuff to back up than your forwards, but that isn't much time for him to recover. Anyway, if he does play there, Max Feagai shifts to centre, Jake Averillo to the wing, Mark Nichols has been named to start at prop after coming off the bench, and Trey Fuller listed in the reserves. Huge. With the Dolphins toweling up a bunch of teams recently, if Trey Fuller comes in and starts hitting his straps, he could be a very interesting in. From memory, he got some pretty good Supercoach scores last year before he had that injury. So hopefully he can get back to his best. Moving on to the Knights and the Storm. Ryan Pappenhausen's been named at fullback. Don't know whether he's going to continue to goal kick. I have sold him this week to Dylan Edwards and Fogarty to Nathan Cleary. And I'm kind of scared, especially because this backline looks fairly inexperienced with Joe Chan, Tui Maladu, Brown. So maybe it is time for the big guns to step up and Pappenhausen gets a huge score. I don't know. I'm not fully decided on whether I'm going to keep Pappenhausen sold or bring him back. Because it is very scary, especially coming up against a Knights side without Fletcher Sharp or Kalen Ponga. Anyway, let's have a look at the changes. Fletcher Hunt comes into the side at fullback. Greg Marzu from an arm injury pushes James Schiller to the reserves. Leo Thompson back from suspension, so Tyson Frizzell reverts to lock. Phoenix Crossland goes to hooker and Jaden Brayley to the bench. Thomas Kant drops out. For the Storm, after being a late withdrawal from the Cowboys game due to calf tightness, Ryan Pappenhausen is good to go at fullback. Nick Meaney returns to centre and Grant Anderson pushes back out to the wing. Blues prop Utoi Kamanu has been named on the bench, but Maroon skipper Cameron Munster and hooker Harry Grant and lock Trent Liero have been named among the reserves and may not back up. Alec McDonald will miss with a rib injury. Jack Howes, blah, 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 whatever. So I would actually really like it if Munster didn't back up because I have Wishart. I'd love to get another 80-minute performance out of him before I sell him. And you'd think that Bellyache would just rest the Origin guns coming up against a decimated Knights side. So a bit happening there. Let's move on to the Dragons and the Roosters. How fucking good is this stubby holder, by the way? Shout out to the missus. Oh, it's green. Fuck. Righto, Dragons. Maroon star Val Holmes has been named to back up from Origin 3, so Corey Allen goes to 18th man. Back rowers, Leilua and Hamish Stewart are back on deck, so Michael Moeller reverts to the bench and Viliami Fafita and Loko Pacifici Tonga drop out. That's actually pretty Supercoach relevant. A lot of people holding on to Pacifici Tonga, so I'm not sure how much money he's made. You could just leave him as enough, but hopefully you weren't counting on him for a number. Hamish Stewart with a concussion back on deck is fairly Supercoach relevant. There might be a few people still holding on to him. For the Roosters, Sam Walker's back. Returned to the NRL after a thumb injury delayed his comeback after he recovered from an ACL injury. Centre, Billy Smith and Victor Radley also return in a further boost for the Bondi Boys. Origin reps Toya, Watson, Collins, Crichton and Spencer Lenu have all been named to back up following the decider. So anyone who happens to be holding on to Billy Smith, that's a much needed number this week. And with Sam Walker, I feel like the thumb injury coming back from the ACL is actually a bit of a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, it sucks he was out for longer, but it just gives him that little bit longer just to let that ACL get 100%. So I'm not sure what Sam Walker's priced at, and we'd probably want to give him an eye test before we go throwing him in our teams. But there's definitely a pod play there. I say a pod play, I feel like a lot of people will jump on him, but he'll be more poddy than your Clearys and Hughes and stuff. So I guess we'll have a look at him this week and then make a decision next week. Cowboys, Bulldogs. For the Cowboys, the club's big four of Cotter, Dearden, Nanai and Robson have all been named to back up after the Origin decider and will be monitored. So probably a good chance they back up unless they get bashed up in Origin. Carl Lawton is back from suspension on the bench, while Murray Tuilagi has been listed in the reserves as he looks to return from a knee injury that kept him out of the Storm game. Forwards Sam McIntyre and John Bateman are sidelined. For the Bulldogs, the return of skipper Stephen Crichton from Origin duty sees Matt Burton shift to 5'8" and Lockie Galvin go back to the bench. Max King and Kurt Mann have also been named back up 3 days after Origin 3, so Harry Hayes goes to the bench. Hayward starts at lock, Turpin goes to 18th man. Winger Jacob Kiraz is 18th man for the Blues on Wednesday night and has been named to line up for the Bulldogs. Kurt Morin and Jack Todd make way, as does Marcelo Montoya. So finally, we're going to get some fucking points from Kiraz. I think the Bulldogs get the job done here, especially if the Cowboys guys don't back up. But I feel like this could be a pretty entertaining game. Cowboys at home, Bulldogs need a bounce back after last week. I'm keen for this one. I feel like we may even see high scoring from both teams. Anyway, Warriors-Tigers. Tane Tuapiki lines up at fullback in his first NRL game since round 10 with Nickel Klogstad nursing a knee injury. Not sure what Tuapiki is priced at, and I don't really think he's much of a Supercoach option, but he used to be, so my brain's like, ooh, I recognise him, maybe we put him in. But no, I don't think so. The loss of halfback Luke Metcalf to a season-ending knee injury sees Tanner Boyd slide into the side, while flying winger Zalesniak makes an early return from an ankle injury. Capewell is listed among the reserves and will be monitored after Wednesday's decider. Ford and Hallasima both move to the starting side, while Tanner Stowers-Smith earns a recall on the bench. So while the Warriors have lost their halfback, they have got a few players back, and Tanner Boyd can do a job. He's probably not going to set the world alight, but I feel like the Warriors will regress a little bit without Metcalf, but I still think they're a bit of a powerhouse team. For the Tigers, Luai will look to back up from Origin, so Adam Dewey returns to the centres and Laui'i drops out. Hooker Coruscant returns from concussion, and last week's debutant Tristan Hope goes to the bench. Jack Bird comes back to the bench after being a late withdrawal last week due to illness. Charlie Murray and Kit Laui'i drop to the reserves. Nothing too Supercoach relevant there. I will just say, though, don't go jumping on Tristan Hope. That is a trap, if I've ever seen one. Oh shit, Eels Panthers look to not be backing up, even on a Sunday. Well, that fucks up my trades this week. Gonna have to reverse those, unless they are named in the reserves. It's a Sunday. Surely they back up, right? Former Tiger De Silva has been named on the interchange for his first game as an Eel. Charlie Geimer starts in place of Kelma Tuilagi, who is suspended, while Sam Tuivasa returns from syndesmosis injury on the bench. Experienced outside backs Bailey Simonson is listed among the reserves after returning from a foot injury through New South Wales Cup. So the only Supercoach relevance I'm seeing there is really De Silva, if you're needing a backup hooker. If, like me, you've got Owen Paddy throwing out gigantic 12s week after week and you need a replacement, probably wouldn't go Talon De Silva this week. Just see how he goes on the interchange. It would be nicer if he was starting, but he's only just got to the club, so like it's not impossible that he starts eventually. Fucking hell. Coach Ivan Cleary has listed 5 Origin stars in the reserves and will make a final call later on in the week on Cleary, Yo, Martin, Dylan Edwards, and To'o. Should Cleary not back up, yep, fucking whatever. Surely they back up, right? It's tough because Origin 3s are the most physical and the most passionate. So if any of these players get rocked in a tackle or something or go off with a HIA or whatever, probably won't back up. If you're like me and you're bringing in Cleary or Dylan Edwards this week, you're probably shitting yourself like I am. Hopefully we get confirmation on whether they back up on the Friday before the round locks out. Yeah, I don't really know what to make with that. I'm going to move on. Titans Broncos. Double boost for the Titans with Jaden Campbell back on deck and David Fafita named on the bench in his return from an ankle injury that sidelined him since round 8. Maroon's duo Tino and Fotuaker have been named to back up from Wednesday's Origin decider in Sydney. How much is Fafita? 674k? Nah, fuck that. For the Broncos, Carrigan, Haas, Shibasaki are all named to back up from Origin 3, and 18th man Reece Walsh is back to play in the number 1 jersey, pushing Selwyn Cobbo to the bench. How out of place did Cobbo look at fullback last week? That was weird. Ben Hunt returns at hooker. That's very relevant. After missing 6 games with a hamstring injury, the return of the big gun sees Jaden Hunt, Deloise Hoyter. The return of the big gun sees Jaden Hunt, Deloise Hoyter, Tyrone Smoothie, and Ben Tulty drop out. While Corey Pakes is nursing an elbow injury, winger Jesse Arthurs is listed amongst the reserves and could see a late call up after missing last week's game with a rib injury. So, a couple of videos ago, I was really high on Ezra Mam, who is still at 6, and Ben Hunt comes in at 9, which is what we expected. But does Ben Hunt attacking at 9 take a little bit of points away from Ezra Mam? I don't know. I'd want to see how the combinations look before getting Ezra Mam in now. He's still a good trade in. He still has points in him, but I completely forgot about Ben Hunt coming back, and that's kind of scaring me off a bit. And I've moved towards Cleary instead, so got a few decisions to make this week. And that is all the games. Don't forget, select all your reserves. You need a full team this week. And definitely keep an eye out for the late mail on Thursday to see if there's any changes. It's definitely the kind of week where a lot of changes could happen. I'm sorry, but Leo Thompson's head, have you seen those videos where people keep putting rubber bands on a watermelon until it explodes? I'm sorry, but Leo Thompson's head looks like that. Look at it. Anyway, sorry, brah. That'll do it. See you later. Uru.